How can you do this day in, day out, or do this on a regular basis and not be damaged in some way by it? Hi everyone. So I'm going to be reacting to a video called "Is Orwellian Britain Sleepwalking into a Totalitarian Future?" For some reason, I just know this video is about to be absolutely fucking hilarious. In like a not funny way, but just I've been through this. I just know what it's going to be like. I never watched my videos before reacting, so yeah, let's see.
For centuries, Britain was a bastion of democracy. Today, it's become a bastion of censorship. Police hunt down and charge anyone who expresses what the government says is a wrong idea. Dale Hurd brings us that story from London.
When a British lawyer and free speech advocate wanted to test the United Kingdom's censorship laws, she tweeted that perhaps her cat is a Methodist because it likes Dreamy's cat treats. Then she asked a friend to report her for hate speech against Methodists to see what might happen. And local police issued a case number.
Okay, so first of all, has the UK ever really been a bastion of free speech and democracy? Like, you've got the Inquisition and, blasphemy laws. We've never really had free speech in this land. I'm sure before, the internet and stuff, you were able to say more things and get away with it. Interestingly, if you look at the stats for like stalking and harassment arrests, they've gone up like 4 times in like the past like 10 years or something like that. And it's because they're just arresting people for speech crimes under different acts and statutes like malicious communications, uh, protection from harassment 1997. Then there's Equality Act breaches, inciting racial hatred. Now we've even got the Online Safety Act, and there's a litany of different acts. And even, yeah, like I was arrested for stalking for an online post. So in terms of like Orwellian Britain, I've had everything, arrested for having a bread knife, arrested for online speech, social services referral for saying that I think the doctor harmed my child. Like I've been through the fucking ringer with this country. I know what it's like, but sorry, let's go on.
Sarah Phillimore then tweeted more nonsensical posts about her pets and says she now has a police record.
And it was recorded under the heading, "A Barrister Posting Hate."
When British police stopped Army veteran Adam Smith Connor as he was praying for a son lost to an abortion while standing in an abortion clinic buffer zone, officers' first question to him was, "What is the nature of your prayer?"
What is the nature of your prayer?
I'm praying for my son.
And for that, Smith Connor was convicted of what many are calling a thought crime. Dr. Kelvin Wright, also a British Army veteran, saw his military career effectively ruined after being put through an Army disciplinary process for sharing a social media post in favor of women's rights.
Then you've got the guy in Ireland, someone will know his name, who was arrested for breaching an order saying he wasn't allowed to be at school location, excuse me. But obviously he was fired in the first place for objecting to a young child changing into another kind of young child, of which there are only 2 types. Just put it that way. So this is not a meme. This is not, you've seen some Americans that comment on stuff, TikTok and stuff, and they say like, "Oh, I thought this was a joke. I thought this was a meme." This is real as anything. Like, in fact, this is probably epidemic. Like, as I said, I've been arrested for saying that someone was involved in unaliving my child online, not making a direct reference, no bad language. This is common. And then inciting racial hatred, of course, you could say something as simple as, "I don't like you because you're brown," and you get arrested. But then if you say, "I don't like you because you have brown hair," you don't get arrested because having brown hair isn't a protected characteristic, they say.
Offended a transgender British soldier. Although exonerated, Wright left the Army.
So you ask me what the moral is. Well, the frightening moral is that don't say any opinions.
British police have investigated 250,000 so-called
They always have these robotic eyes as well. Like sometimes I wonder if like only 10% of us are like actual real, and then everyone else is like just a robot in a flesh suit. Because like when they do this, you can literally see like that the thing takes over them. Yeah, listen to me when I'm speaking. You're on the restaurant, like they go robo mode.
non-crime hate incidents in the last 10 years, an average of 66 every day. And some have gone to prison. When it comes to freedom, Britain is at a tipping point. This is a nation that prides itself as being a champion of liberty. And yet some are warning that Britain is sleepwalking into a totalitarian future. Toby Young, the founder of
The top comment is something like, "We're not sleepwalking into a totalitarian future. We're already in one." And it's funny because I've actually read 1984 and Brave New World, and I guarantee you guys there is way more surveillance than in reality than in either of those books. Um, the only thing is, I suppose, like with how they control births, we're getting to that point. I posted a video similar to that for subscribers only on the Telegram today. But in terms of them controlling the births, we're getting there in terms of um, the level of influence that the government wants to have over our children. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think next 50 years we'll see something closer to that. But in terms of like, put it this way, there's something called the Donut in the UK. It's like the Central Intelligence Hub. I guarantee you that in that place they can track virtually any telecommunication in the entire UK. Um, it was only when I started doing my master's in computer science that I actually realized, and this is at the age of like 26, 27 even, I actually realized that telecommunications go to a physical location. Now I knew this, but it's like I wasn't cognizant of it. So every single message you send, in order for it to get sent, it goes to a local hub, then it goes to a more distant hub. They're going to physical locations with a server, and each each communication is coming in line by line. So someone can just divert those into a central communication hub if they have the technology, like the military or the intelligence services. So if they wanted to track every communication that you make, they could do that. And when you get serious crime, you see that they are able to do things like that, or T under the T Act, if you know what I mean. They're able to do that kind of thing. This stuff is real. Like I say, it is already an Orwellian future. It's just most people are too like asleep to really actually open their eyes to what's going on around them, and they think that because it's an opinion that's racist or sexist or goes against their belief, they think that it's okay, and you'll have people in the UK actually advocating for this. If you did a poll of the UK, I would argue that over 50% would say that they think that this is normal. Like, if someone says something racist, arrest them. They think that's okay.
of Britain's Free Speech Union says a few years ago he thought the censorship in Britain couldn't possibly get worse. Now he says that was naive.
I liken it to falling through a burning building. Every time you think things can't get any worse and you've finally reached rock bottom, the floor gives way and you're falling again.
Some, like London Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson, have been investigated for social media posts a year or more old.
They actually downplay how bad it is, because that's the police level. Then you've got the livelihood of people, because if you get fired, you lose your livelihood. Then you've got social services. I know someone, 20-year experience in social work, who told me that there is somebody who's having their children taken away from them by children's social care because they refuse to affirm their child's change from one type of person to another type of person. And this is a child. So, on every social level, this kind of totalitarianism is actually being enforced. When you talk about the police level, that's, the people that are convicted of crimes or charged with crimes, which is a massive disruption to someone's life. Spending a day in a cell over a post, the mental scars of, being in a cage. Some people never, they're not criminals, get put in a cage. And then on top of that, if you actually get charged or if you actually have to go to court, the days that you take away from work where you can't, earn or feed your family, or, you lose your annual leave, you probably only got like 20 days annual leave. You're losing 5 over a post online, and, you're working the rest of the time. And then you go to court, you might get fined. You're actually paying money over a post. Like, this is what they're burdening the system with. And then if you ask a barrister or a lawyer, they'll tell you, oh, there's a backlog in the courts, and some of them blame COVID and some of them say, no, this has already been here. And it's like, you think maybe this has something to do with the fact that we're arresting people for bullshit? Or the police are.
What Toby Young calls offense archaeology. Get charged with a non-crime hate incident and it can be...
That's the problem right there, guys. If you know, you know.
Become a stain on your career, showing up on background checks.
No reasonable person wants to have on a police record that you are guilty of some form of hate.
After former police officer Harry Miller faced charges of what police labeled transphobic hate speech in 2019.
And then it's like, if you think about it, if you actually take someone physically against their will, perform an arrest, but not an arrest, like say it's deemed that you weren't justified in making that arrest, you can get done for kidnap, or you can get done for false imprisonment, or you can get done for assault for even trying to apprehend an individual. So they're like, you've done something that's a speech crime, so we're going to physically apprehend you, which if you did it for the wrong reason would theoretically be a worse crime. Then we're going to put you in a cell, and then we're going to extort you, like, over a post online, like characters. Like, I have people hate on me online. They insult my daughter's death. They call me the N-word. I get all kinds of abuse for the stuff I say. But I just look at it like, in about 2 days, I'm not even going to like care about this. Maybe I'm thick-skinned. Or maybe I just understand the principles of free speech and I don't want to be a hypocrite. And at the end of the day, just because something hurts my feelings, I'm putting myself out there publicly. If I don't like it, don't put yourself out there publicly. And I get that there needs to be laws for certain kinds of like serious harassment and stalking, but an online post, a bunch of characters sent to a local server with someone's characters in their name arranged in a certain order. So it's like, it's not a crime if I say, I hate this person in my little post. But then if I say, I hate this person, and I put BLAC or CK or, TRA, you get the rest. If I say that they're this and I hate them, then it's a crime. On a post, like, but this is real, guys. Like, this is real.
He began the organization Fair Cop to challenge law enforcement interfering with free speech. He was joined by Sarah Phillimore.
The vast majority of police officers in this country are sick and tired of this nonsense. They too have to be careful about the opinions that they express, because they too can find themselves at the wrong end of a non-crime hate incident, a disciplinary, and potentially being thrown out of the police force. But
I don't believe it. My uncle actually wrote a book called Canteen Culture, which won some awards and stuff. You can look it up, guys. And this was like back in like maybe the 90s or something, because he used to be a police officer. And even back then, he said like the police were corrupt, institutionally, or whatever you think of that. This is what he says in the book. I believe that is a thing in many major institutions. Then you've got he was saying that he told stories in the book of like how they would like get a drug bust, and then they'd like take some of the drug busts and hide it, and there was mad like corruption and cover-ups. Like something would happen, a crime would happen, someone would do something wrong to a victim, to a suspect, and then they would cover it up and all collude to do their reports. This happens in the police, happens in the NHS. So the reason I bring this up is because I don't think that they are mad about this. I think that they get a kick out of it. It's like a power thing for them, and that's why you have so many more certain types of individual in the police force nowadays who are more likely to be emotional or offended over speech, and so they want to enforce this. In fact, like I said, most people want this to happen. Like, they want you to go and arrest the person who says something horrible to them online. And this is not even to mention other things about policing in the UK, like the use of the Doolittle model, which is a sexist model that you can look up. It's about how the male is usually the alpha aggressor. So if there's any dispute involving a male and a female, they come and arrest the male or remove you from your property. It's just they use this in all of the Western world, but there's a lot of really horrible, insidious things about modern policing, and this is just one of them. And I don't want to bitch and moan. People will say, "Well, don't commit a crime," but honestly, it's hard in the UK to be a real man and not commit a crime. Like you offend someone, you defend yourself. You can't defend yourself with weapons. Someone can attack you in the street. You fight them back. You might get done for a fray. You might get done for use of excessive force, but without even using a weapon, because you defended yourself against sometimes even more than one attacker. So I won't go on, but I'm sure you get the gist. I mean, last one actually, there was a guy that I think he was a gypsy fellow, and these individuals came to his house, tried to kill him, or unalive, I should say, tried to unalive him, right? And he ended up unaliving one of them. He ended up in prison. It's like, you came to my house, motherfucker. And then they got like, someone comes into your house, you hit him with a bat, and then they're like, well, if the bat was positioned in a way where it could be considered that you had intent to defend yourself using the weapon, if someone came to your house, then now you're guilty because you were laying in wait, or like, it's just, you have to be like, I had the knife, but it was only for the purposes of cooking, stored away in the kitchen cabinets. When the person came, I first tried to beat them away with my flour, and then I laugh, but like I say, this is real and it's ridiculous.
But I've seen far too many police officers who look like they are enjoying what they're doing.
While Britain does not have a First Amendment like the US, British common law is supposed to protect speech.
There you go. Like you said, people enjoy it. And yeah, just a word on the common law, protecting speech. There's no specific law that actually does protect speech. There are laws that condemn certain forms of speech, incitement to violence, incitement to racial hatred. There were blasphemy laws that got taken off the books, Equality Act breaches. So there are laws that condemn speech, but there's no laws that specifically protect free speech, other than perhaps Human Rights Act. That would be as of the early 2000s, where you have freedom of speech under, I believe, Article 10. So this is a modern thing, but even Article 10 is not steadfast in its ability to protect free speech, because the court is, of course, going to balance, the potential harm to somebody else through your speech and the other acts and statutes with your right to free speech. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling that stated that, and this was as of 2024, that stated that we have the right to abuse with our speech, and it stated that more consideration should be given to Article 10 rights. So it'll be interesting to see if there's anything that comes of that, any cases where that's used in. I'll try to keep my eye on it if I can. I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, we do need laws protecting speech. I think Reform wanted to bring in like a new charter of, a new English constitution. I thought that was a great idea. I'm not a Reform supporter. I'm not Tory. I'm not Labour. The closest party I would align myself with in the UK, I'd say, is maybe the Heritage Party, David Curtin. You can look into that if you want. But again, I don't agree with everything. Like I believe more in the American principles: right to free speech, right to bear arms, freedom of expression. But they have some problems like this in America as well. If you say certain things about certain groups of people, you get the consequence. I guess there's no such thing really as free speech, is there? Anywhere.
However, news commentator Connor Tomlinson says you can't say Britain has free speech when only speech approved by the government is allowed.
So no, we don't have free speech in this country. Instead, if you're a Christian, if you question the open borders, mass immigration agenda, or if you say some, let's say, febrile and ill-advised things on a social media app, but you are not a member of a state-approved left-wing NGO, then you will be sent to prison.
Adam Smith Connors.
Potentially not sent to prison, but you'll be charged with a crime and you could be sent to prison. Yeah, it's not just those kinds of individuals that are persecuted for their speech. And yes, you can be arrested for being against that, what they said about the mass, and that's a real thing. But it's all kinds of speech. every group in the UK thinks that they're the only ones getting targeted. The lower class whites think they're the only ones getting targeted. The lower class blacks, the women think the police are misogynist, and everyone's misogynist against them. And then the men, I think the men are actually the main targeted ones, because you got the economic slavery, and then on top of that, you got all of this. So it's like, what are you even getting in return? But of course, the women, there is real things that target women. They're targeted for their fertility. There's a lot. Every group's targeted. That's my point. Every group is targeted. But the Christians think they're getting targeted, then the LGBT think they're getting targeted. The state is targeting all of us, dividing and conquering all of us, and preventing all of us from saying what we really think and really get into the meat and potatoes of every issue, because no one's allowed to say the truth.
Says his legal ordeal has been personally tough after he fought for freedom in Afghanistan, risked his life, and lost friends there.
I've got a profound sense of sadness that for our nation, that the fact that we have plummeted to such a depth so quickly.
In his book 1984, George Orwell depicted a future totalitarian state modeled after Stalin's Soviet Union. He probably never imagined that Britain one day would be described as Orwellian.
He obviously imagined that. And, I'm not worshipping the guy. He probably knows something we don't about Britain. But if you look at any lucid writer from that time frame, I'm partial to a bit of Ezra Pound myself. But it was pretty clear to see that this is where, the UK would head. When you tell people in the UK, socially, this is very close to like communism, totalitarianism. They're like, oh, you don't know what communism is? Who do you think you are? Oh, you don't believe in, free healthcare? Who do you think you are? Like, this is the mindset of people in the UK.
Idea that you can be criminalized for a non-crime, for instance. It's pure Orwell. This is straight out of 1984. As I told the police, 1984 is a dystopian novel. It is not a police how-to manual.
Young believes free speech can be restored in Britain, but citizens must get involved.
If we abandon our belief, our commitment to free speech, it'll be not just catastrophic for us, but catastrophic for the rest of the world.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, London.
Well,
how can we really get involved? There are laws on the books that are being enforced. So we would have to lobby for those. We could practice the jurist conscience, like I always talk about, and just not enforce these laws in a jury. Just always find people not guilty. That's something that we can do. But that would be really hard to orchestrate across the whole country. So when there's laws on the books like this, and this is what happens when there's a slippery slope. Like now, there's thousands of people being convicted of speech crime. So you repeal which law do you want to repeal? The inciting racial hatred? Then you're going to have to look at all those appeals and add more backlog to the court. So you're going to free all those people, exonerate all those people convicted of those crimes. Where does the line get drawn? Because are we talking about repealing the Equality Act? Most people would be against that. I would be for maybe a different kind of act that doesn't necessarily rely on protected characteristics. I think, to be honest, conspiracy to commit in terms of violent crime and in terms of certain speech offenses, I think even the protection from harassment, you could talk about that. That could pretty much be enough. I don't think you really need the Equality Act. But what do I know? It's used in employment tribunals and things like that. So where do you draw the line? Which acts and statutes are we going to repeal? How can we as a population actually undo what the precedent has been? I think a new English constitution would be great, maybe exoneration of many individuals, historic cases, but I don't think there's any solution to this. I just see the UK descending further and further into communism, into medical tyranny. They're not going to admit that they're wrong. I don't see that as something that is likely, considering the types of people we're dealing with and their contempt for the average English person, the average non-English person, the little guy, so to speak. They have utter contempt. Even the guy that said he served in the military, I don't think he understands. Like, they view you as cannon fodder, mate. They don't give a shit that you served in the military, mate. I promise you that. So, you know, we need to wake up, but I don't know what we can actually do. I think for many of us, the solution is just, we need to leave, uh, or mass civil disobedience until they do take drastic action. But
Well, we need to get back to the principle of the, quote, free world, close quote, that we don't have this kind of Orwellian culture. In the UK, it's called hate speech, and that's a crime. Here in the United States, it's still called hate speech. It's not a crime yet, but it can lead to cancel culture, where you are going to be publicly shamed, you're going to be deplatformed, your social media posts are going to be deleted. We've all gone through that, and just look at some of the disinformation coming out of the so-called elite, whether that was on COVID and the origins of COVID, whether that was on Hunter Biden's laptop, or you have a
Hunter Biden's laptop. Yeah, I'm surprised that, but again, the US has much more of a free press. There's a lot of state propaganda in the UK, but I'm surprised some of the things they even say on TV sometimes. But media is controlled everywhere, no matter where you are, but especially in the UK.
A whole panel of foreign intelligence experts say this is Russian disinformation and we need to squelch all these reports, and you can't put any information up on any news site or any social media site.
Also, it's actually funny that he said disinformation on the origins of the C-19. Yeah, that's. I wouldn't even get into that one because that will be for another video.
It's already happened, and where is the outcry and where is the outrage over it? Look at the roots of this, and it all goes back to totalitarian governments founded under a communist utopia, where anything that's against the government or against communism is considered counter-revolutionary and has to be completely wiped out. We're seeing on our college campuses things that are almost identical to the struggle sessions of the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s in China. Do we really want to go down that path?
And that's the funny thing about the Americans. They was, I'm a total advocate for free speech, and we can't deviate from the principles of democracy. But those college campus students that are talking against, a certain state in the Middle East, how can we allow this? Just fucking hell, man. Oh God, we are so cooked. Right, I'll call it a day there. So I hope you enjoyed that. I laugh, but it's not funny. Very serious, topics raised. Like I said, I have literally been arrested for stalking with intent for an online post before. Oh, sorry, 2 online posts. No bad language, nothing. So, oh man, we are fucking cooked. But anyone have any solutions? It'd be interesting to hear people's thoughts. That's why I want people to join the Telegram chat, because the Telegram chat allows all of us like-minded individuals to, bullshit with each other. I'm gonna make sure, what my target is by, let's say by March, we want to have 50 people in the Telegram chat. I'm gonna hustle it. 50 people in the Telegram chat, okay? Okay. Thank you guys. Dropping another video soon. Like, comment, subscribe,